Hi, hi. All right, I am going to, oh, we can't do that. Get us shared into the Facebook group. Need my glasses. All right, step by step. Live QA1, week 1. Yep. Hello. Hey guys. All right, we are here and we are kicking it off for our live Q&A. Now, I have in front of me the questions that were already submitted. So just to kind of acclimate you to how things will happen, you have a link. Sorry, I'm looking all over my screens here. You have a link that will let you drop a question in 24/7. So that way, whenever a question occurs to you, you are able to drop it in, and then I will get that link right before this meeting and be able to see all of the questions that were submitted and answer them live. I will always start with answering those questions that were pre-submitted, but don't be afraid to drop some questions into the comment section here in the Facebook group as well. Happy to get to those too, so long as we have time. All right, I've already pulled up the questions. I just need to find where the heck I put them. Too many tabs open. Here we go. And here we go. Awesome. Okay. So we have questions from Janet and from Amy. And you guys, whether you are brand new to Step by Step or you are somebody who's been around the block for a while, you are welcome to submit questions to the live Q&A. This is not just for newbies. I want to be able to help you wherever you happen to be in your business. And if you're in the very first cohort that we ever taught, you are also welcome to drop questions into the form. Okay, so the first question that we have, let me make the screen bigger so that I can actually read. Janet says, what does this mean? Okay, so she says, I'm licensed in Texas, but just received permission to do telehealth in Florida. Good. Aren't the regulations dependent on where the client is? Therapy and your clinician follow the laws and professional regulations of the state in which the provider is licensed, and the sessions will be considered to take place in the state in which the provider is licensed. Okay, so I'm assuming that that might have been part of what you found in the Florida telehealth certification. Let me know in the chat if that's where that quote was pulled from. So just pop it into the comments. I'm going to give the rest of you a little bit of backstory. So Florida, Vermont, and South Carolina, and a growing number of other states are now recognizing cross-state license reciprocity. So, for example, in Florida, if you're licensed in another state, you no longer have to go through an entire licensure process. Oh, okay, Janet, thank you. You no longer have to go through an entire licensure process in order to practice here. You just need to basically fill out a form, pay a fee, and that's it. And they're saying, okay, cool. We see that you're licensed over here in Oklahoma or Texas or wherever, and we recognize that license here in Florida. So not all states are doing this, but Florida is, and I really do recommend that you take advantage of this, particularly if you're looking for private pay clients, because Florida has more income than some other states, and you are more able to fill a private pay practice with clients from Florida than you might be able to in some other places. So it's a pretty modest fee. The only thing that feels a little bit complicated about it, but really isn't, is that they require you to have something called a registered agent. And all that is paying a fee to somebody to have a business address here. And if you go into the online therapist group, you can just type in registered agent into the search bar, and you'll see people giving you recommendations for registered agents. The one thing to think about when you're working with them, some of them will collect mail for you. You're not going to get much mail, but some of them will collect mail for you, open it, scan it, and email it to you. That obviously is not a good idea as a therapist, just in case you have any sort of clinical mail that gets delivered to that address. So just opt out of that feature just to make sure that there's no HIPAA-ish requirements, nothing happening there. So summary, definitely take advantage of being able to practice in Florida. The way that you're going to find the form is just Google out-of-state telehealth therapy provider, Florida, and the form will pop up for you. It's absolutely worth your time. Let me get a little drink of water here. Okay, so Janet was pulling copy from the informed consent that I gave you. And so this is what the copy said. iTherapy, which was the EHR that I was using, and your clinician follow the laws and professional regulations of the state in which the provider is licensed. And the sessions will be considered to take place in the state in which the provider is licensed. So that is just some legalese, cover your butt language. It does not mean that I'm able to see clients in states where I'm not licensed. That's just cover your butt legalese. And what it means is if a client were to say, I want to sue Amber because XYZ, they would have to bring those charges in the state in which I'm licensed. So that's all that is. It's just a kind of cover your butt sort of thing. It does not give you permission to practice in states that you're not licensed in. Okay. Janet also asked for a template for the good faith estimate. The way that I would recommend getting that template is I would Google your professional body. So for me, it would be the American Psychological Association and good faith estimate, because I'd rather you get the good faith estimate from your professional body who have paid lawyers a crap ton of money to make sure that it's written in a way that's aligned with legal issues and with your ethics code. I'd rather you get that from them than for me to make one up, and then you have to adapt it to your particular professional body. So that's how I would grab that. Okay. Last submitted question. This is from Amy. So make sure that if you have questions, you can drop them in the comments here in Facebook. She says, hi, I'm in the process of reactivating my psych license in New York and New Jersey. I have worked in schools for a while, and it's been about a decade since I did clinical work. Once I complete a lot of continuing ed credits, I will get my licenses reactivated. So my question is what to do if you're simultaneously ecstatic about starting the private practice you've always dreamed of, but terrified at the same time, terrified that I've been out of the game for too long and that I will fail. I know that clinical supervision will be key, but what should I do first to get things going? Ooh, such a good question. Okay, let me think on this for a minute. I'm sorry if I sound stuffy. I'm still getting over stupid COVID. Agree with you that clinical supervision is going to be important. I have some recommendations if you need a name. I think mindset wise, I would remind yourself that the most impactful thing that we do as therapists is we see our clients. So if you don't allow yourself to get caught up in like, I need to know this theoretical orientation and I need to have these, super therapeutic skills. And you just remember that the relationship and your capacity to help someone be seen and understood is the most potent part of therapy. You could do that right now without any additional CEs. You go into a room, you empathize, you use reflective listening, You ask questions to deeply understand that other person, and they feel better. That's as simple as it gets, right? So if you can remember, like, that is the heart of profoundly impactful therapy, is really creating space for somebody so that they can be seen and known, then you're going to be able to step forward more quickly. The other piece that I would say is start before you feel ready. Get a supervisor, start before you feel ready, because the only way that we build up our sense of confidence and competence is doing the damn thing. So all the learning and all the prep work, right? We'll start building more anticipatory anxiety. Whereas if you just start doing it, then you're going to start building up your confidence. And then the last piece that I would say, the only place that I think that your anxiety can be like kind of helpful is making sure that you've dotted I's and crossed T's where things could truly go wrong. So make sure that you do the emergency and crisis response piece of the course and feel like you have those ducks in a row. Because when it comes down to it, like the worst case scenario, right, in most therapy sessions is it just doesn't feel like an awesome therapy session. Okay, not the end of the world, right? It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. What the real worst case scenario would be is if there was a crisis and, you kind of like froze up and didn't know what to do. And then that person is at risk. So make sure to go through that part of the course, print out all of the worksheets that I give you, and just keep a paper copy handy. So, if stuff goes down, then you have access to that. The other piece there is it helped me a lot to have friends who were therapists, so that if I felt kind of about what was happening in a therapy session, I could text and be like, hey, can I get a clinical consult real quick? And I knew that they would pick up, right? So having that support, I think, is really, really important. All right. I'm just wondering if there's any way that you can like get some practice in before going through all the CEUs and the license process ethically and legally, obviously. Maybe going back to if you still have access to your university library, watching the Yalom videos. They have all the videos of Yalom and others. I mean, he's not the only one doing therapy, and sometimes just watching the therapy can be really, really helpful. All right, I'm popping over here into the questions. Kristen says, just wanted to say I'm very much looking forward to Step by Step. I've only just gotten through the getting started section since I got back from vacation. Woohoo, vacation. Have to leave for a meeting at work, but really excited. I'm really excited too, Kristen. We're going to have a good time over the next couple of months and get a lot done. But Lisa says, I couldn't find the 2 free courses on directory listings. Did I just overlook it? Let me see here. So we have one by Tamara Howell, and we have one by Laura Long. I don't think that they've been taken down, but I am going to tag Kim in here. She's sick with COVID now, but we'll check on that. Can you help us find, where I think they are, Bradley? I think that they are in the extra resources section. I'll look it up real quick. Can you help me find the links to the free Psychology Today courses by Tamara Howell and Laura Long? Let me log into Kartra real quickly and see if I can find it for you. I'm so sick of being stuffy. Ugh. All right, memberships. Step by step. There we go. Let me log in. It's like 18 steps to log in on my side. And I'm going to share my screen with you in just a minute. Okay. Let me share my screen, and then see if we can find it together. And mine might look slightly different from yours, but it shouldn't look totally different. Okay, cool. Da, 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 da. Dum, bum, bum. So could be in, nope. It's probably in here. Let's take a look. Well, this is where it would make sense to me for it to be, and I'm not seeing it here. Did I not link it? It should have been hyperlinked in the place that I mentioned. Oh, you know where else it may be? Hold on. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, here's the audio. By the way, we're talking about this in our level up. This is the audio for the entire course. So if you just want to listen on the go, you can get to it right here. All right, marketing. Let's see. This would be another good place for it to be. Let's see here. It's not going to be here because that would be too smart. Okay, so here is Laura Long's, the link to hers. Tamara should also be in here. So I'm going to make a note that we need to add those things in multiple places. Let me make that note for Kim. Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. You're ahead of me. Awesome. Yay, Kristen's back. Okay. Do you print out and highlight your entire code of ethics and regulations for each state you're licensed in, or the parts related to telehealth specifically? Honestly, I do it for all of it. And what I do is I email the board in my state and say, hey, I am just wanting to make sure that I'm looking at all of the correct regulations. Could you please link me to any regulations that are pertinent to my practice of psychology in the state of Florida? And the reason that I do that is because when I look up my professional regs in Florida under psychology, it only gives me, it's like 497.5 or something like that. It only gives me a portion of them because I also fall under public health, and that's a whole separate section. And so if I don't email them, I'm worried that I'll miss some part that I'm supposed to be practicing under that I don't know. So I email them, I have them send me the links, and then I print all that crap out, and then I go through and highlight it. It's annoying, but it's worth it because it makes me feel like I've covered my butt. And when people say weird stuff in Facebook groups about what is and what isn't ethical or legal or whatever, I have the actual information and I don't have to listen to them. Janet says, what do we do about clients whose insurance is rolling over and the pay rate is higher until they meet their deductible? I have a couple of clients having mini freakouts. All right, I'm going to link you to Kim Tolson. She is our resident expert on anything related to insurance. And she has a group all about telehealth and insurance on Facebook. That's a really good place to be. And she's going to be able to answer that question for you. Having never accepted insurance, I have no idea. All right. What other questions do we have, friends? So I know it's week 1, so you probably haven't gotten hyper in-depth in the course yet, and that's okay. When you come to these meetings, you can ask questions about anything. It doesn't need to be about the material that you happen to be on in the course right now. We have members who have come through step-by-step, 5 years ago, who are showing up at these meetings asking questions. So it can be about anything from building the practice to marketing the practice. We can even talk side hustle stuff, but I will put that off if there are more pertinent questions related to building or growing your practice, just so that the people who are here for that get their needs met. You have the link to pre-submit your questions. So if it occurs to you sometime during the week, you can hit that link, pre-submit your question, and it will show up for me right before this meeting. And then when we run through all of the questions that were pre-submitted, I will go into the comments to answer questions. So it's a little bit of a delay for me. So I'm going to give you just a minute to drop your questions into the comments section, and it can be anything from mindset to practical stuff to something that you think is too stupid of a question to ask. You have paid to have this time together, so make sure that you use it. I'm trying to practice using silence. I'm not good at it. I was mentioning in our small group coaching that it's a great idea for you to make sure that you are going through the marketing section of step by step and doing at least one piece of marketing every single week, even if you're not ready for clients yet. Okay. You can always put them on a wait list or refer them on if you happen to get a call. But the reality is it takes a while for your marketing efforts to start bearing fruit. So you want to start marketing from day one and have some really easy, quick wins for you in that marketing section. Okay. Kristen says, I'm thinking about the multi-state process. I'm in the position where I haven't started private practice yet. I work in school-based mental health. I want to make the transition. And while I want to make the transition to private practice, online is appealing because I also want, heck yeah, also want to be able to move. Absolutely. I just don't ever want to go back to a physical practice. The fact that like right now I'm in Colorado, we bought a house here. We have a house in Florida. We bought a house here and we're going to be renting out the top floor, and then we can come spend time here on the other floor during parts of the year. We've been coming out west during the summers and spending like 1 to 3 months every summer out here, and being able to just bring my practice with me has been amazing. And if we want to move, it's so different now than in the past where, you know, you build a practice in Springfield, Kentucky, and then if you want to move even an hour away, you've got to rebuild that practice from scratch. With an online practice, you don't have to do that. You get to take that practice with you. And for the type of work that I do, a lot of people end up staying in therapy for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And being able to be consistent in their care is a really cool feature of practicing online. So Kate adds, with that in mind, any considerations when looking at starting the process or practice schedule planning when thinking about moving from West Coast to East Coast in the next year? That's a good question. Part of me wants to say, I have two parts of me speaking up right now. Part of me wants to say, you know, don't sweat it. Schedule things right now when it works for you and your clients, obviously. And then as the move gets closer, you know, when you're about 3 months out, I would start talking to clients about the fact that you're going to be moving. And so the time zones are going to be kind of wonky. And these are the adjustments that you're going to need to make, and then move them at that time. So part of me wants to say, you know, I wouldn't stress out about it. Like people, once they build the relationship with you and they're committed to the work, are almost always able to wiggle around, you know. And then the other part of me who loves to plan is like, ooh, but maybe you could set everything at a time so that it would work when you went there. But the reality is people's schedules are going to change anyway over the course of the next year. And so you're going to end up doing a lot of anticipatory work when they're going to move anyhow. So I wouldn't stress about it right now. I would do the schedule that works for you and your clients now on the coast that you're on. And then you can always transition them when you move. Now, I will tell you something that I did that is working really well as a traveling therapist. So because I'm moving around a lot, and right now my practice is on hold, I'm doing all this side of the business right now. But what I did was I set all of my meetings at a time that would work for West Coast or East Coast. And that way, so for example, my meetings are at like 12:1 and 2, 12:1 and 2 and 3 on the East Coast. And I like that a lot. But when we're coming out West, it also allows me to see just those meetings move into the morning for me, right? So I made sure that it was going to work wherever I happen to be, because I knew I was going to be traveling a lot. And I don't want to, like, I can't move your times around, right? Like, this is when I'm teaching and you've committed to this and you've paid for this time spot and you've got it held for the next 8 weeks. So thinking in that way, if you're going to be traveling a lot, to make sure that you're scheduling meetings at times that you would be able to make on whatever coast you happen to be on is, I mean, dude, our jobs are so freaking cool that we're able to do this. It's so, I feel so lucky that we're able to do this. I'm so appreciative for it and grateful for it, and try so hard not to take it for granted. And I'm feeling very sappy. It feels like such a gift to be able to help you to be able to do the same things. All right, other questions? Bring them, bring them, bring them. Speaking of multi-state, if you aren't aware already, there are some states that I mentioned before that you can practice in like without a license. It's more like a certificate that acknowledges your license in another state. Right now, those are Florida, Vermont, South Carolina. But all of our professional bodies are working on interstate reciprocity. And they're doing it through something called a compact. A compact is just a contract or an agreement between states to recognize the credentials of a profession. So psychology has a psych pact, and they're far enough in the process right now that I have a friend who is registered with psych pact, and I think she's able to see people in like 31 states or something crazy like that. It's a lot of places. Each of our professional bodies is working on this right now, and some of them are farther along than others. But it is absolutely worthwhile to keep your ear to the ground about that. Maybe get on an email newsletter or something for your professional body as it relates to the compacts. You'll also find in the online therapist group, I'll link it for you, hold on. I have a guide section where we are collecting information about the packs as they come through. I'll link that for you now so you can kind of stay abreast of where things are. So it's guide 5 and it's right here. I'll link you to it in the chat. So what happens is they have an organization. I forget the one for psychologists right now. It's just slipped right out of my head. But basically you submit all of your licensure information to them, and then they hold it. And any state that, you're like, oh, I want to practice in Georgia. Oh, they're part of the compact. Cool. Georgia's like, oh, okay, cool. I see all your credentials. If this organization says that, you've checked the box for us and you can practice here. So that's going to be super freaking cool coming down the pipe. Now, the side of that nobody's talking about that is, we're going to have to pay attention to it. Each state varies in their laws about things like what's the threshold for imminent risk. Like some states say imminent, some say immediate, some say serious self-injury, others say suicide. So you're still going to have to know state-specific regulations, but not very many. So there might be like nuances about what needs to be in your paperwork, or nuances about when you might report child elderly or et cetera, abuse, or the process by which you would do that, or the process by which you would involuntarily hospitalize somebody. So you'll still need to know those little nuggets for any state that you're practicing in. And it'll be a little bit of a pain in the butt to track that. But my gosh, how nice will it be not to have to go through the entire licensure process for every state that you might need to practice in? And with people moving more and more, I mean, our society is very transient now. it's really common for a client that you're seeing. I had a client that I was seeing in, I guess she was in North Carolina. She was in North Carolina, and then she needed to go to, I don't know, it was like Missouri or Mississippi or somewhere like that. And she was going to be there for a year. And so I had to go through the process of getting a temporary license. I didn't have to. I chose to go through the process of getting a temporary license to be able to see her while she was there. Whereas if the compacts had already come through for that particular state, I would just be able to continue seeing her without having to come out of pocket. I mean, it was, you know, a chunk of change that I had to pay to be able to practice there. So it's going to be very, very nice. Princess says, I'm hopeful about the packs, but doubtful that Camp BBS will join any pact, but I'm considering a license in whatever state I end up moving to. Yeah. California is no freaking joke, man. I mean, they are the hardest core of any of the states that I've worked with people and dealing with. And then if you're a social worker and you're in California, I mean, geez Louise, it is a lot of hoops to jump through. The social work code of ethics is the code of ethics that I go to, even though I'm a social worker. It's the one that I go to when I'm like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing things as conservatively as possible here, because I know that they're going to have the most rigorous code of ethics of anybody. So yeah, that's tough. I think so, just to get like real complicated. Some states are, in California, maybe one of them, are stepping outside of what I think that they're really federally allowed to do. So I'm going to blank on the name, the interstate trade. There's a federal law that protects our ability to earn money in other states. I'm forgetting the name of it right now. Some of our states try to trump that by saying like, hey, we recognize where the client is the point of service and where the therapist is. So you need to be licensed in both places. But the reality is, you know, California can't tell me what I am and am not allowed to do in Florida. That's up to Florida to tell me that. California has nothing to say about what I can and cannot do in Florida. So I think probably, you know, in the next 7 to 10 years, some of this stuff is going to get loosened, because I think that we're starting to build up enough confidence and momentum to push back against some of these more antiquated laws and ways of working. It's going to be a hot minute, and I don't want to be the test case. I don't want to be the one being like, screw you, California, I'm doing what I want to do, right? I don't want to be the test case for that, but I think we're building up enough momentum as a profession that we're going to be able to push back on some of that. Nicole says, I'm working Monday through Thursday at a group practice. I'm not sure how to set the pace of transitioning to private practice. Do you have recommendations? I can't afford to leave my current job while I build my practice. Great question. Okay, so yes. First, make sure that you have done the math to know how much you need to have in savings to be able to leave the group practice and give yourself some runway, like 6 to 9 months, to have built up your private practice. And that's a pretty conservative. 6 to 9 months is, you know, your 12 months is a better. So, you know, it goes like this. You're not immediately going to be full of clients. So that would be the first step, is to know like, all right, let's pretend that it took me 12 months to fill my caseload at whatever rate. How much money would I need to have saved up in order to buy myself that time? So that's where I would start. Then I would think about, how can I earn some money through private practice on the side to be funding that savings so that I can leave as soon as possible? That would be my next thought. And that might mean that in your private practice on the side, you set, you know, high rates so that you can earn money more quickly with fewer clients. Because if you're working full-time at a group practice, it's not like you have a ton of time to be seeing clients outside of that, right? So maybe thinking about like, let me set my rate high and really go hard at marketing to be able to get people at that rate so I can see fewer people fill my practice. Okay. I would also be thinking about how many of my clients from the group practice are likely to come with me. And more than likely, your practice has a no compete clause. Most of those are, I shouldn't say most, many of them are not enforceable, and often they're not morally right. So what feels moral to me, if you're leaving a group practice, is that your clients are given options to stay with the group practice, to stay with you, or to work with a totally different referral. And I think most of our code of ethics will say, like, that's the way to deal with things. So I would, in your mind, know that that's probably the way that you're going to deal with it. You're going to give them their options. And think about what percentage you think will come with you. And think about what the rate transition will look like. So for example, let's say that you wanted your private pay rate to be 200, but you knew that these clients were paying 150 at the, I should have done easier math. Let's say they're paying 100 at the group practice, and you make $60 of that, and the group practice makes $40 of that. Okay. So let's say that you told them, my private pay rate is 200 or whatever the heck I said it was. But, I really, if you want to stay with me, I want to make that easy for you. And so what I will do is honor the rate that you've been paying the group practice, which by the way, gives you a 40% raise. I will honor the rate you've been paying the group practice for 4 months, 6 months, whatever. And you're probably going to be done with therapy by then. Most people finish within 50, or get clinically significant results within 15 sessions. And then after that, if you choose to stay or working on new goals or whatever, then we'll just go up by $10 a month until you've graduated or until we've hit my full fee rate. Okay. So that's how I would think about transitioning folks over. It's just to make it as seamless as possible. If they're paying, let me know, Nicole, are they using their insurance with the group practice, or are they private pay? And will you be taking insurance? Are you paneled with the insurance? So will they be able to transition from insurance to insurance is what I'm asking. Or are they going from an insurance group practice to potentially a private pay practice with you? Because that transition would look a little bit different. All right, so the underlying question there is the pace of the transition, which is all going to come down to money. How much money do you need? How quickly do you need it? And then it's also going to come down to how quickly do you feel like you can get the ducks in a row of your own private practice. You'll notice in the course, there's a section called Quick Start. And that is for folks who need to kind of get it together really quickly and who can massage it and nuance it later to get, it perfect. So you can go real quick. We can get things set up within a week and a half, 2 weeks, if you want, or it can go more slowly. So tell me a little bit more about what your comfort level looks like and what you're imagining the pace to be. All right, I'm getting some water while y'all throw some more questions. California, Kristen, so related to camp, California is facing a mass exodus of people. The taxes, I think that the use your words, Anne, the politics, there are a huge number of people leaving California right now. It's going to be interesting to see what effect that has on the economy there, because they rely so heavily on taxes. And with more and more people leaving the area, it's going to be really interesting to see how things play out. Okay, so they are using insurance and you're considering credentialing with a few insurance companies. Okay, cool. So you can think about, well, there are a few ways you could go about this. So you could credential with a few yourself, and definitely keep it to a few or less if you're wanting to have some private pay clients, because it's very difficult to fill a private pay side of a practice if you have, 5 insurance companies that you're paneled with. So you could choose to panel with those insurance companies that are paying the most and that your very favorite clients are with. That might be one approach. Another might be checking out something like Headway or Alma. So one of those intermediary companies, so that you don't have to go through the credentialing process. And they're sort of like a group practice in a way, and you would be able to see your clients through them. They take much less than most group practices take. So that might be another path that you could look toward. How soon do you want to leave? What's the dream pace look like? All right, guys, we've got about 9 more minutes. So it is your chance to throw out any more questions that you have. If you don't have any more, we can wrap, but it is your time. So let me know. Really, these are new curtains, they're blackout curtains, and they really, really need a steamer real bad. It's not looking good. 6 to 9 months. Yeah, totally doable. Totally doable. So we were talking earlier in the level up small group coaching. As you're thinking about, wanting to move with some not urgency, but, like wanting to move at a good clip, you can think about if you're starting from scratch with setting up your practice. If you put aside 3 to 5 hours a week to get all of your ducks in a row, your paperwork, to pick your products, to move through the course, you're on track to be able to, have your practice up and running, relatively quickly. So certainly within the 6 to 9 month window. If you're looking to fill your practice with private pay clients, and that's a totally different beast of marketing than insurance-based clients. It's a totally different thing. Then we're looking at least 4 hours a week to learn and implement your marketing strategy to have a full practice in 9 to 12 to 15 months of private pay, high private pay clients. So you can think about those numbers so that you know that you're setting aside enough time if you're going to go at a pretty good clip. If you're like, it doesn't matter how fast things go, then you certainly don't need to put aside that much time. But think about how much content is in the course. 3 to 5 hours, half of that is just going through the content, and then half of that is implementing what you've learned. And the same with marketing. All right, other questions? I'm curious if you guys are using planners, and if you are, then I want to know which ones you're using. Okay, Tony, off topic. Can you give me an idea about your lighting setup? I noticed we can't see a light reflecting in your glasses. Yes, I can. So I'm sitting at my desk and there's a white wall directly in front of me. And I have my ring light aimed at the wall. So it's a bouncing light, off of the white wall onto me, rather than that light being directly in my face. And that seems to be working pretty well. So, okay. The cost of living is totally insane. Kristen was saying, I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area for 6 years, making $120K the last year I was there, but living in a studio. Yep. I'm in Orange County now, took a $40K pay cut for this job, but I'm now making $350 more a month for rent for my 1-bedroom condo. Right? The program gives me hope. Yes. Working smarter, not harder, and being able to leave when I thought I never could. Heck yes. I mean, living somewhere where the cost of living is not so insane makes such a huge difference in your life. Oh, SEO means search engine optimization. And you can think of it as your findability online. So let's say that I have a website and it's beautiful, but I'm not getting any clients. That is because my website is just a billboard in the woods, and it's beautiful, but nobody's seeing it because it's in the woods. So if I worked on my SEO or my findability, that would mean that traffic would get driven to my website so that people would actually see it. And some ways that you can work on SEO would be, for example, on your website in your headers or your subheaders. These are the lines that Google is really paying attention to see what your website is about. So if you're using words in your headers or your subheaders that your ideal client is searching for, especially the more specific, the better, then that's going to build up some search engine optimization. If you have a Google My Business page, that's going to build up your SEO, your search engine optimization. If you are, if you get on Reddit, which we have a mini course about inside of Step by Step, or YouTube or Facebook, those places have already built up a ton of SEO. And so when you get on those platforms, you get to borrow some of their SEO. And so it funnels traffic to your website. Psychology Today is paying a crap ton of money to Google for SEO so that we get found on Psychology Today. So that's SEO. Okay, some of you need a good planner. Okay, Dora uses the Passion Planner, an e-calendar on my Mac. I'm not a fan of Google Calendar. Bradlecia says, I love planners, really like Passion Planner, but I'm trying a manifesting planner this year. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. I love planners and I bebop around to different ones. I don't like hourly physical planners because everything is in my Google Calendar. So the hourly thing doesn't do it for me, but what I need help with is a big goal and breaking it down into steps so that I know every single week I'm doing something that moves me closer to my big goal, which is something you guys need. So I use the Goal Crazy Planner, GOAL Crazy, and it is a quarterly planner, and it helps you break down your big goals, like I want to earn 180,000 this year, gross or net or whatever, into smaller goals, and then breaks them down, farther and farther and farther, so that you are making sure you're hitting the needle movers, the tasks that actually get you somewhere. And there are a lot of planners that do that kind of thing. The Full Focus Planner is another one. The Legend Planner by Clever Fox is another one. I have tried lots and lots, and I love them. So anytime you come across a good planner, please do share it with me. I am a sucker for planners. And every year I buy probably 6 different kinds just to try out new ones. But for the last 3 years, I just keep coming back to this one. I just love it, love it, love it. All right, my friends, we are just about at time. I'm not seeing any other questions. I'll give you just a minute more. This is sacred time. So if there's any chance of being able to show up live, I'd love to see you here each week. We have 8 weeks together. And this is time where we can really dig into those questions that until you get the answers to, you feel kind of stuck. You're in the course material, you're doing it, you're working on it, and then you hit something and you're like, dang, I just need help with this one question. I could keep moving forward. This is the time and space for that. It is not too late. If you want to add on small group coaching, we do have a couple of spots left. So email me if that's something you're interested in. We had our first meeting today. Our next one is next Wednesday. It's the hour before this. My email address is dr.amberlyda@gmail.com. All right, friends, I'm going to log us out. I will see you next week. Take really good care of yourselves and keep moving forward. Make sure that you have set aside time to work in the course. Use the podcast. If you're like, girl, I don't have time to be sitting down at my desk, use the podcast and listen to it on the go and just keep moving forward every single week. All right. Take good care, friends.